Anyways, hello everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this special episode. I wanted to make it different because it's a 10th episode and I kind of wanted to celebrate. I know 10 isn't really like one of the big markers, but I just want to celebrate anyways. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about an episode for me, and I don't really know how to just talk about myself just to talk about myself. So I made it kind of Q&A style. You guys sent in a lot of questions and I'm really excited to answer them today. The host of this episode is a featured guest that we've had before, Daphne, my girlfriend. So she's going to be the one asking the questions and kind of running the show for today. So yeah.
Oh, hey. What's your Starbucks order? I was about to say and you reached for it, so.
Oh, yeah. So
what is your Starbucks order?
Well, don't look at them. You're not asking them.
Oh. What is your Starbucks order?
So for me, my Starbucks order is a custom drink that I kind of like to get. I was in the process before of trying to rebuild the honey haze drink from Phil's.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I think it is just a regular cold brew with, I usually do grande, so a regular cold brew, grande sized, 3 pumps of honey blend is what they call it. Mm-hmm. And then vanilla cream cold foam. And then it's kind of complicated. Sorry, let me start over. So grande cold brew with 3 pumps of honey blend, vanilla sweet cream cold foam, and a splash of half and half. And then I asked for honey packets and drizzle the honey packets on top of the cold foam. So it is complicated, not kind of. It's pretty complicated, but I think it's pretty good. That's what I like to get. But not this time.
Or you could just go to Phil's and order the honey haze.
Yeah, or that. It's gonna be better for sure. But yeah.
Oh, I guess I feel like I know the answer to this next one then. But favorite coffee shop and your drink there.
I mean, you probably know my answer to a lot of these questions, but
no. Well, because you just talked about it.
So my favorite,
unless it's not,
coffee shop and drink is. For the longest time, I said that it was the honey haze drink at Phil's, which it's definitely, that drink is still in my top 3. Is it my number 1? I'm going to have to say no anymore. Oh. Because we went to Yeem's.
That is your favorite?
It was really good. It was really, really good.
Of all time?
I mean, what else is there? So we went to there's honey haze, but we went to this place in K-Town called Yeem's Coffee yesterday, and the drink was called the Vienna Latte. Mm-hmm. It's their short latte. Mm-hmm. And then their house cream, and then they have like a dollop of cream on top, and then they dust it with. So good. Yeah, it was really good.
You should put a picture.
I know, right here. Maybe I will.
Right here.
Something so like good. That. But it was really good. Because I like my coffee sweet and creamy, and that was
Phil's?
Yeah, the Phil's way. But I don't know. For me, the coffee itself tasted a little bit more like a Vietnamese coffee, so it was a lot stronger and punchier. Mm-hmm. I compared it to the Homeboy latte, the Homeboy cold brew latte with the cream top, and that one is also good. Yeah. But I think the latte itself at Yeem's is stronger than the one at Homeboy because it's a cold brew. Mm-hmm. And the coffee comes out more in the Yeem's latte.
Yeah, for sure.
And then because of that, the Homeboy latte is way sweeter and more decadent for me. Not way, but it's sweeter and it's less it's more of a dessert.
I get that.
I don't know. That's just
I get that because I don't always want the cream top at Homeboy because it's too much.
Yeah, sometimes it's super heavy.
Yeah, like sometimes you just want coffee.
Yeah,
I just get the cold brew latte.
Yeah, but that Yeem's Vienna latte, I could drink that every day for sure. But it'd be probably super bad for you.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that is favorite drink of all time, but favorite coffee shop because obviously you can't say Yeem's.
Oh yeah, okay.
You don't go to Yeem's. You've been to Yeem's once.
Yeah. My favorite coffee shop. Would be. We actually don't frequent a coffee shop.
I actually have one in mind for you.
Oh, go shoot.
Stereoscope.
Stereoscope is pretty cool. I definitely vibe with the employees there. I've had a few conversations. But I think Stereoscope, in the same way as like Phil's, it's the same thing as Phil's, where I feel like there's not a community there. Like I feel like people just go in and out and get their coffee. Like some people stay and do their work.
Yeah.
But I like that environment of coffee shops where it feels like a community. Like it's, it's hustling and bustling, and people talk and stuff, and it's not just everybody's in their own little world, which I know some people go to coffee shops for that. But and I guess the only place that comes to my mind when we talk about that kind of stuff is Corridor.
Oh, yeah.
I like the environment in
That's
Corridor
true.
a lot. They have like the little shop there as soon as you walk in. They sell like books and plants and stuff like that. I think it's pretty cool.
That's true. That one has a good ambiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I really like.
Yeah.
Good vibes. But I don't know. There's probably another coffee shop that I can't think of. But yeah.
Oh,
that's
also
good.
to preface, we're doing like the more chill questions, and then we'll get into deeper questions. Because I was just realizing like these are kind of very surface level questions. I hope people don't think this is it.
No, I mean I think people are listening, waiting for their question for sure.
That's also very true. Okay. Top 3 favorite cuisines. And no, it's okay. Just do that. Yeah.
Top 3 favorite cuisines. My first one is gonna be Japanese. I really like.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought that wasn't. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, it was always. Oh, are you thinking Chinese?
Yeah.
See, the thing is that although Chinese is my number 2. So the reason why Japanese is over Chinese is because the range of Japanese cuisine, I think, is, for me, at least for what I've experienced and what I like, is wider. Meaning, the like finesse and excellence of like really high fine dining Japanese food.
Yeah.
Like I haven't experienced that with Chinese cuisine. And then also like your daily like, you can do like, I know Yosh is like, I don't know, people would think that's Japanese food, but it is. It's yakiniku beef. So, and it's like udon. So it is Japanese, but like that's what I'm saying. Like even the lowest form of Japanese food, like Yoshinoya, is so good to me. So like all the in between, and then the range is so wide. You have ramen, you have sushi.
If you're talking about range. You could
then,
say Chinese food too. Like
so,
there's the noodle soup that we just had that was fire.
That was the first time I had beef noodle soup.
Then it goes down to like pandas.
Yeah, that's true. I could smack pandas every single day.
There's pandas.
Which is actually crazy.
There's what's the place? Seafood Empress?
Yeah.
Sea Empress?
Oh yeah, dim sum. So that's why Chinese is my number 2.
Like
because the
number
range
2.
is also really wide, and I could eat Chinese food almost every day. But again, it's really that like upper half that I haven't experienced with Chinese food. Like I haven't really experienced really nice, well executed fine dining Chinese food.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's
3?
my number 1, my number 2, and then my number 3 would have to be Filipino food, just because it's definitely comfort for me, and it's what I was raised on and grew up on, and the flavor profiles of Filipino food is really nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
But the thing with Filipino food for me is very similar to Chinese food. Is like it's really hard to find well done fine dining Filipino food. I know that there are some. There's this restaurant in Chicago, is the only Michelin starred Filipino restaurant in the world, I think. I'm almost certain that
Wasn't there some in like SF that not Michelin star, but it was on the Michelin guide.
Yeah. I mean, there are, don't get me wrong, there are really well done fine dining restaurants that do Filipino food. I haven't been to many of them. But like, for example, again, like you only have one Michelin star Filipino restaurant in the entire world. Japanese cuisine, you have like billions. I don't know, billions,
for
but
sure.
Yeah. So that's my top 3, all Asian cuisine. Yeah.
Next tattoo.
So my next tattoo, I've been wanting to get one really bad, and I mean it's just expensive. But I think my next tattoo, what I've been thinking about and planning is I wanted to get. So I have this tattoo. For those of you people that are watching, I have this tattoo on my right hand that says mise en place. It means everything in its place, and it's in. Oh my gosh, I should probably know. It's in French.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in French, and it's usually used in restaurants. And it has a deeper meaning for me that I'm not really going to get into right now because that wasn't really questioned. But I'm interested in getting another tattoo on my left hand in the same spot. And it's going to say Dulcius ex Asperus. And I'm pretty sure that's not how it's pronounced at all.
Probably not.
But it's in Latin and it means sweeter.
Through difficulty.
Yeah, something like that. Sweeter
How do I know
through
this?
It's not through though.
Yes, it is.
No, it's like sweeter than difficulties or something like that. And basically, it means that.
I have a computer in front of me. I'm just gonna...
Yeah. Wait. Okay. Anyways, it basically means actually it might be sweeter through difficulties, but anyways, it just means that the difficult things that you face in your life, like, or the sweet things that come in your life, come through difficulties. That's basically what it means. Like all the good things in life are earned and deserved through trials and through difficulties. And that's a reminder to me that whenever I'm pushing for something and working towards something and it's difficult and there's stress and resistance, it just means whatever's waiting for me at the end of that is gonna be sweet. So yeah, both of those tattoos on my hands would be reminders to me to just keep pushing forward and to not like give up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. I want to get another tattoo.
Yeah.
We're just broke.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. One's in the works. And the funny thing about all my tattoos, other than the one on my hand, is that they're all half done. It's like the one on my arm. Well, the one on my arm, there's no under.
Yeah.
On the inside
the
of my
one on
arm.
your leg?
And the one on my leg, there's no on the
You would want
other
it to wrap
half.
around?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
What's your wildest dream?
I guess my answer to what my wildest dream is to just have enough money to be able to indulge in the things that I enjoy in, because I know that you call me like a serial hobbyist and I enjoy a lot of things and I like to get into a lot of things. So if you're asking me what my wildest dream is just to make enough money to not have to be like, oh, I want to get that. That's so cool, but I can't, you know? But the reason why I stress my wildest dream is because I think the answer of like my wildest dream is different from like what my life's dream is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what?
Which is to be able to provide for a family. That is probably like my life's dream. If I can get to a place where like nobody in my family has to worry about like finances and everyone is like comfortable and like, you know, that is the dream. I think.
That's true. You don't have to be at a place to like overindulge.
Yeah,
to
no,
be
like
happy.
Yeah. It's definitely not like, oh yeah, I want to be. And when I say like I want to have enough money to buy the things, like I am also not the type to be like, oh, I need the best car and the best house. Like I do enjoy like nicer end things, but I know where my limit is, and my limit is not like. Basically what I'm saying is I don't need to be rich.
Yeah.
To hit my like preferred comfort level of what's the phrase? Quality of life.
Yeah.
Like my preferred quality of life. Like I don't need to be like stupid rich to hit that.
No.
Yeah.
Agreed. Total turn here. Maybe I should have put that one last.
It's okay.
I honestly thought you were gonna answer it how you jokingly answered before, of like a lion breathing fire at you.
Oh no.
It got kind of deep, and we're about to go back to like. Anyways.
That's fine. We're in that section.
What song do you listen to when you're having a good day / a bad day?
The first song that popped up into my mind to listen to when I'm having a good day, which, let me preface this with, I kind of killed the song for myself because I played it so much. Because I really enjoyed it. But it was, I think the song is called Hell and Back by Baker or something like that.
I don't think I know that song.
Bakar. No, you do know that song.
I do.
Yeah. you've played that song before. We played it in Tulum.
Oh,
yeah. It's called "Hell and Back" by Bakar.
I do know that song.
And I really enjoy that song. But again, I think I killed it for myself because I played it so much, and now when I hear it, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
But that's the first song that came into my mind. And then for me, the song that I play when I'm sad, and I haven't listened to this song in a long time, so I guess that's a, you know, good thing. But it's by J. Cole, and I think it's called "Snow on the Bluff."
Oh my gosh.
That song, like I only ever listen to that song when I'm like depressed, because it's, for me, it's like I'm in like my, for those of you that know the phrase, like my dark night of the soul, like it's, life is just heavy, and like I'm in my like bubble. That's the song that like I turn to, because it's like also that song is like, you know how like sometimes when you're like sad and you want to stay sad, or like you want to, that is that
feed
song for me. Yeah. That song's heavy.
Dang, the psychologist in me wants to ask what is associated with that song, but we won't get into that.
Nothing. Like I just listened to that song, and it was just the feel of the song, like the vibe and the way that J. Cole raps on it, and the stuff that he talks about is like the exact feeling that I feel when I get into that mode, which is why I enjoy listening to that song, because it lines up with like my mindset and my mental state. Even though you said let's not get into that.
What is your, I don't want to say favorite, well, okay, most meaningful artist to you?
My most meaningful artist to me, I'll give two, but I'll give my final answer. The second place I think would be Giveon.
Most meaningful?
Well, actually, yeah, no, maybe not Giveon.
Yeah.
Most meaningful artist, other than like obviously like Christian artists and bands and stuff, that I think that's a different level of like meaningful, because it's not really the artist that makes it meaningful.
Yeah, no.
So no, my most meaningful artist, I think I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, is J. Cole. And I think although he's not the best,
you should have wore your J. Cole shirt.
I know, I probably should have.
Nah,
that'd be too much. But although J. Cole is not the best, I think the reason why he's so meaningful, like his music is so meaningful to me, is because I was really listening to a lot of J. Cole stuff at a very developmental time in my life. Like the middle years of high school, there was a lot going on in my life at the time, and just the stuff that he rapped about, although I couldn't like relate to like a lot of the things he said, he rapped about, because he was like rapping about like, you know, growing up in the hood and worrying about like living the next day, like homies dying and poverty and stuff. Like, although like that's nothing that I've been through, I think for me the reason why I connect to the music so much is because it grounds me, and it reminds me like people have it worse than I do. Like, although life is tough, like I should be grateful for my life. And that's why I enjoy the music too. And I also really enjoy the storytelling aspect of his music. Like it really like tells a story of his life and the people that he's been around, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah. I remember when you were super into Middle Child, because you finally understood like what he means by that.
Yeah. Good one.
What is / are your most played artists?
Okay, well, most played last year, my Spotify Rewind, I was like,
oh my gosh,
0.1 top listeners to Giveon. Because
crazy.
I don't know if this is like chronologically correct, but at least that last year I was listening to, oh my gosh, I'm gonna pull it up because I'm gonna butcher it, but I was listening to Giveon's 2 biggest albums, I think within the same year. So the first album was
Anniversary?
No. Wait, what's his most recent album? Oh, Give or Take?
Yeah.
I guess the album before that was Oh, it's Take Time. Well, no, but When It's All Said and Done is like the longer version. But anyways, I think it was Take Time. So Take Time was the album.
What songs is on that one?
That wasn't what songs are on that one.
Yeah.
It's The Beach, World We Created, Take Time, obviously, Favorite Mistake, Heartbreak Anniversary.
Yeah.
So that album, I was like literally, that whole album was like on repeat, like over and over and over again. Probably in the beginning of this past year, and then, or maybe it was 20. Yeah, I think it was not this past year, not 2023, but 2022 last year, because that's when Give or Take came out. So I was listening to Take Time in the beginning of 2022 on repeat, and then Give or Take came out. And
so it was like double time.
Yeah, and then I was like basically back onto Giveon again on repeat that album. So probably Giveon is one of my most highly listened to artists for sure. Yeah.
Just that one?
I'm not gonna talk about J. Cole anymore. I mean, I was listening to a lot of Kendrick this past year because of I'm so bad with album titles. The most recent one, the concert that we went to, what album is that called? I looked that one up too.
Oh shoot! So wait, no, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
It is called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Oh my god, I knew it was Mr. something.
Yeah, I was listening to that a lot. I've been listening to a lot of SZA this past year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her stuff is so good.
Yeah,
I was just talking to Gavin about that actually.
Yeah, everybody is in love with SOS.
Yeah.
And I can't fault anyone for it.
Yeah.
So those are a few of my top listened to artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Thanks. This comes from Chef Ray.
Stupid.
Can you work Saturday?
No.
Next Saturday.
I'm not working next Saturday. I already told you.
Okay. Since you were talking about being a serial hobbyist, let's just get into all your hobbies. Because
is that the question?
No.
Oh.
But we talked to it's in a way it's gonna go that way because
yeah.
We were just talking about music. You got into like vinyls and like I bought your record player.
I am a really big serial hobbyist.
Guys,
it's bad.
When I say it, I mean it with my whole chest. And you know what's funny is that you're such a serial hobbyist and I don't have one hobby. Like when we were doing that like 9-piece thing, like one of the categories was your like favorite hobby. I honestly couldn't think of anything. I put binge watching shows, Friends.
I mean, you're really good at
that. That's all I do. I don't do anything for fun. I can't even read. Yeah. I can't even read and stay entertained. Anyways.
Yeah. So what's the question?
The question is talk about your passion for animals, talk about your passion for animals.
Oh, that one or you said get into my other passions or hobbies?
No, I was saying it'll get there.
Okay. Well, anyways, so when I was young, I had a really deep passion for animals, to the point where I wanted to be a zoologist when I grew up. I know that's so like
I thought it was a herpetologist.
Oh, yeah. So I really liked animals. So I wanted to be a zoologist, but the more fine-tuned specification under zoologist was a herpetologist. So herpetologists focus on reptiles and amphibians. I don't know what it is. I really just I like animals. I can't really think of explanation of why I like animals. I mean, I've always enjoyed nature, but I just think animals, this is like a bad explanation, but I think animals are so cool. Like, the different functions of animals and, like, how different animals are good at different things and like, the different stuff that animals can do, I think is really, really cool. I'm sorry, I really don't have a better explanation other than they're cool.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I would say the same about, like, people. Like,
yeah. Like,
there's no other explanation other than I find them, like, fascinating creatures.
they're just really, animals are just really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot deeper side to why I think they're interesting. But yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. So what's your favorite animal?
I've always said my favorite animal is a crocodile. Yeah, because
Sorry.
I just think
I didn't know how to react.
yeah, I don't know. I just think they're so, like, they're an apex predator, and they've been around since like the dinosaurs, and crocodiles have been around since the dinosaurs, and if you believe in evolution, they haven't really changed evolution wise since the dinosaurs. They're the same creature. They're just smaller, as opposed to, like, you know, if you believe in evolution, as opposed to like dinosaurs who have like very much changed. You know, people think that like chickens are basically like now what dinosaurs used to be. Like a lot of fish have changed since that time, and birds had looked way different than they did before. But crocodiles as a species have been the same for like how many decades? Because their build works. Like, there's nothing that needs to change about crocodiles because they function so perfectly. And I just think they look really cool. I like the whole aspect of like them being an apex predator, but like they're so like stealthy and hidden, and how they just kind of like peek up with the eyes, and I don't know, they're just super cool to me. Yeah.
If you were any animal, what would you be?
If I was any animal,
just not what animal you wish you could be. What like describes you? Yeah.
So like,
because I don't want you to say like, oh, I would want to be a crocodile.
Yeah,
like,
no, I wouldn't want to be a crocodile. I describes me.
Yeah.
I don't know. The only animal that I can think in my head is a Tasmanian devil. Because I think the reason why I kind of relate that to myself is because they're just crazy, and they're like, I don't know if a lot of people know about Tasmanian devils. They're very social creatures. They live in like packs, like little families, and I think that's a big part of myself. But also they're like very feared in their part of, you know, they are like, they're not the apex predator, but they are one of the top predators. And also they're really noisy. Like, they cry, they yell.
Do you cry?
No, I don't cry, but they're really like loud, and sometimes they're just like a nuisance, and I relate to that part of them. But not only that part of them, it's really just that in combination of them being a social animal. They look like little dogs.
Yeah.
Too, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why that.
I'm actually gonna jump questions, because I'm gonna ask Daniel's question that I loved so much. Given your rambunctious personality in your childhood, also please give backstory to that.
Yeah.
Do you think anything changed?
Backstory to me being a rambunctious child?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was a knucklehead when I grew up. I was growing up.
Understatement of the year.
Yeah, I was a knucklehead.
And I wasn't even there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a knucklehead. A lot of the adults that know me now have a long list like of horror stories about me when I was growing up. Like a lot of adults have their own horror stories. Like like someone can tell a story, and then another person will have a totally different story, and another person will have a totally different story. I was a bad kid. Not only at church, which is probably the biggest thing, but also at school. I mean, I definitely had my fair share of issues at school. So yeah, I don't know how much
examples, like
what?
Like the school one.
Which one?
How did you make friends?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's not really like knucklehead-esque, but anyways, when I was in, I don't know if this was like this was very young, like before first or second grade, I think, because it wasn't like
before first grade. You're like kindergartner.
No, is it not before first grade?
That is so young.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
Because when I was in elementary school at Park Western, what grade do you start elementary school?
Like 6?
No. 6 is like you're graduating, going into middle school already.
At 6 years old?
No, I'm talking about what... Did I say age?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant like what year, like... No, not what... I'm talking about like first grader, second grader, third grader. Because you said 6, and I'm saying 6th grader, you're like in middle school already.
Anyways, what about it?
I don't really know anymore. But anyways, when I was young, there was a story that I would basically charge kids to be my friend. Like I had a club, and it was like a friendship club, and it's like, oh, I have this club, and we're all friends in this club, and if you want to be part of this club, and if you want to be our friends, then you have to pay me.
That is so
So I'd basically like hustle kids to be my friend. And it sounds sad. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I just didn't have friends, and I was like, I really needed friends. I don't know.
I mean, if that's the case, you should be a salesman because you were really selling that friendship. Yeah,
kids actually gave me money. I got in trouble for it, and my teacher at the time called my parents, and she was like, hey, like I just want to let you know that your son is charging kids to be a part of his club, but it's not even like a club, it's just to be his friend. Yeah. There's plenty of stories. We can go all day about that. Yeah. But the question is if I think things have changed. I think in my core, no. Like I think I still have that side of me, but obviously growing up, I understand that part of me is 9 times out of 10 like not necessary. Like it doesn't need to be like that. So I know how to control it, and I know how to like I think I do. I don't know, maybe other people think differently, but I don't know. I would say in my core, yes, but like yes, it's still the same, but in my interactions, like no, it's different. Like,
yeah, you don't like act on it.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't say so, because Roman always calls you the golden child. So.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like, I don't think. I personally would not say that's the same.
Yeah.
Type of behavior, I guess, but I get what you're saying. Like it's kind of still.
Yeah. Like
ingrained.
Yeah,
in you.
It's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there, but yeah.
Okay. What traits about yourself are you most proud of?
Traits with an S.
Or one, I guess. If there's only
I don't know.
One.
I guess the biggest thing that pops into my mind to answer that question would be, what's the word? Personableness. My ability to be a personable person. I don't know how like the right verbiage for that.
So I get what you're saying. Like you're a personable person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a people's person.
I don't know if that's something to be proud of, because when I think of like something to be proud of, it's something that I kind of like worked for, something that I earned.
I guess.
I mean, that's the first thing that came to my head. I am proud to call myself somebody that is a personable person that gets along with people pretty well. And not only am I proud of that, but I enjoy stressing that skill. I enjoy like getting better at it, and I enjoy practicing it, because the fruits that come from that practice and come from that like stressing are oftentimes very rewarding for me. And just remind myself that like, hey, like life is not all about myself. There are other people living life and going through things just the same way I am. So that was the first thing that came to my mind. I guess I would also be proud to say that I'm not lazy. I can be lazy, but I would never label myself a lazy person. I would definitely label myself as like a go-getter, somebody who, you know, can work hard, and I am proud of myself for that, because I think as time goes on, I feel like characteristics like that are starting to be less common. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you could cook a dish that best describes you, what would that dish be?
Something Asian. That best describes me.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's Asian, something that is easier than people think it is. Like when I put it out on the table, like they're like, "Oh wow, like it looks so good. It looks so like professional." But really, if you see the technique that goes behind it, it's pretty simple. Something like that. And yeah, go if you have an idea.
I don't know why I'm thinking of sisig.
That's just because I was like.
Yeah, but it's true. Like you're saying, oh, it's a lot easier than people think it is, and blah blah
yeah,
blah 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 blah.
Yeah, that could be one of them. It's pretty good. I guess sisig. Cause I was gonna say maybe something with spice, because although I've never really been one to like enjoy really spicy foods, I think the inclusion of spice in my cooking now is like a testament of growth for me. Because yeah, I used to like really not like spicy foods, but now I enjoy it a lot, and I try to include it a lot more in my cooking. So yeah, we'll just go with sisig. We'll run with that.
What are the 5 most interesting things that your guests have said?
The 5 most. I don't know if I can do 5 off the top of my head. Let me just think
3.
a little bit. Yeah. One of the first things that pop up, if you're talking about, well, I don't know what constitutes like interesting. Like I don't really know where we're going with that. Is it like, dang, that's crazy, or is it like impactful, meaningful, or
yeah,
like,
I get that. How about we'll take your question, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like good, bad,
okay, yeah,
good, bad, crazy.
So, this might be all over the place a little bit because he said 5, and then that's like it's kind of like a different form of question that we're going towards. But I kind of see the direction. But anyways, I guess some of the craziest things or most interesting things that were said, and some of the like moments that stick out most in my podcast, in my few episodes was, I'll just start naming a few, and I don't know what category they fall into. But one of the big things, I remember Josh in the first episode basically touched on how important and how life-changing working out was for him. And the reason why that's like such a big thing for me is because I was just explaining, like I had a one-on-one with Nathan the other day, and I was explaining to him that last week, like it was kind of a rough week for me, and I was in a real like slump, like I said, like I'm not usually a lazy person, but I was like super lazy. Like I couldn't get myself to do anything. I didn't want to do anything. It was like mentally heavy and draining that week. And the end of that, at the end of that like slump that I had, I worked out on like that one of like the last days, and that was the day that it totally like, okay, I'm gonna get back into this, like, and that moment for me reminded me of that conversation with Josh, because I know that we had the conversation before, but it's literally scientific on how working out changes your mental state, and the impact that working out can have on your perception of the world, the perception of yourself, and like working out. And I'm not just saying this because like, oh, we all need to be like fit, and it's just like literally any form of physical like exercise, like even just walking or whatever, it does a lot for you mentally. And yeah, so that's a big thing for me because it's something that I can remember and lean on when like I am feeling unmotivated. It's like, yo, just like walk a bit or run a bit, and then so that was a big thing. Like if we're talking like crazy story wise, the big 3 for me is like my Uncle Rick's story, of course. One of the moments that he talked about in there was he was watching from the inside of his cell, and there was like a big brawl that broke out of like people on the yard, and there was like 2 like gangs that were out there, and then they were kind of like he explained it better in the episode, so I would watch that one if you haven't already. But they were kind of like in the yard and stuff like that, and it looked like everything was going fine and stuff like that. But both gangs knew that they were on the yard to like brawl, so like they were just there chilling and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, like they turned and they all like bum rush, and it was like a big giant brawl. Like that was a crazy story for me. Elena's story is crazy. Like I don't know, like I can like close my eyes and throw a dart at her like timeline in her story, and it would be like a crazy story. So I don't even really want to get into that too much. Watch that episode too. And then the most recent one with Gretchen, about how she, as a newborn baby, was found under a palm tree eaten by ants. I mean, that was the highlight that I used. But that was pretty crazy. So there's like a good and then a few crazy. I don't know.
Even like Conrad's one.
Yeah. That's probably like if we're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, like the good I guess would be Josh, and then the bad would be like the 3 stories, and then like not that stories Conrad's story was like ugly, but it's like his story, it's heavy, and it's like, I mean, of course there are the other stories are like there are other stories that are heavy too, but that one was like, especially because it's a little different, because I'll explain to you that sometimes when people come on the show and they talk about their stories, they're talking about it from a place of being healed already. So the narration of the story is in a brighter light. But when you know the story from the person of when they were going through it, it's a lot darker and a lot deeper and heavier. So I know that there was that side of Conrad's story.
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, you also knew him, and like you saw those stages happening, but you didn't know what was actually happening. You know?
Yeah.
But like you're going back and like thinking about it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like looking at how his story progressed from before to where he's at now, and like again knowing him now, it's hard to like understand it from the episode, but really like looking at his story from before to now, like it was a big shift. I guess that's also like the good, but yeah, that's a few of like, I would say, some highlights on this podcast for sure.
Okay, name some people that you don't know but you would love to have them on the podcast.
That one's tough. That's tough because I don't know any like smaller podcasts, or like not podcasts, but sorry, what was the question one more time? It's not podcasters, it's just people.
No, just people.
It's just people.
Yeah.
That I don't know. See, that's the question, is like, how do I know like, who I don't know? But like, I know what you're saying. It's like people that I
like
know of, but yeah. But then that's the thing. That's my difficulty, is because the people that seem more tangible and realistic to have on the podcast, I know them. You know what I mean? Like the non-famous celebrity people. Like I know most of the people that I would be interested on having on the podcast and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. It's like what we were talking about with like Gabe and Saab. Like you could easily like talk about a celebrity because you know their story's interesting, but that's like kind of...
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is like, it's hard to, for me, right, for this question, when it says like name people that you don't know that you would want, I mean, there's a bunch of people that I don't know that I would want. The first person that popped up in my mind when I heard of this question is John Bernthal. So John Bernthal is an actor. He played he was the Punisher in Marvel, and he also played, I think the character's name was Shane in The Walking Dead. The reason why I talk about John Bernthal is because he also has his own podcast called Real Ones, and that podcast was a big catalyst for me to start this podcast, because what he does in his podcast is it's the same thing like this. He just has conversations with people who've been through stuff. He has, gang members, he has, I don't know, just a bunch of people who have lived lives, and listening to his podcast really encouraged and inspired me to start this one. And I also know that he has his own crazy story. So that was the first person that came to my mind. But the reason why I say it's so hard to answer this question is because when I give answers like that, it just sounds like unrealistic. Like, oh no, like give me, I don't know if that's really like where the question was going. But we'll leave it at that. That's probably the only person I could say. Other than that, people that are like more realistic to have on the podcast, I know most of them, I think. But I don't know. I can't really think of that. Sorry.
Okay. What was the transition like from being a chef to a full-time podcaster?
Okay. Well, I want to preface this for any people in the industry that might be listening. I was not a chef. I always say this because when you get in the industry, at least the way that I see it, there is a difference between being a chef and being a cook. Chefs are like the boss, basically, in my eyes, but there are some restaurants that function where everyone on the cook is referred to as chef. Everyone's chef. So depending on who you ask, that term might mean different things. But I just want to preface that for the people that recognize that as two different things, I was not a chef. I was just a cook. But to answer the question, it was what? One more time?
What was the transition like being a cook to a podcaster, basically?
Okay.
Full-time cook to full-time podcaster.
Okay, well, I have been a full-time podcaster for the past few months. That is not what I would label myself as yet, because I don't think I'm there yet. And the reason why I'm specifying that is because, again, for me, if I were to listen to somebody else say that they're a full-time podcaster, for me, that means that they don't do anything else except for work on their podcast, and that is their livelihood, and that is going to be their livelihood. And I can't claim that about myself yet because we're still early days. So I just want to make that clarification. But it to answer the question, it's been a wave of emotions. It definitely was super exciting in the beginning, and it is still exciting, and I still am passionate about it now. But it was a big transition because working as a cook, the way the schedule worked out was my shift was basically 3 to 11. But then I would go in a little bit earlier, and sometimes you leave a little bit later than that. So when you work, at least for me and my schedule before, when I did work, the day was work. Like, there wasn't anything that went on that day because I was just too tired. I think it is definitely difficult, for sure. I think the biggest thing that makes it difficult is going from having a steady income to not having any income / not having steady income. It was also, I think that's a little extra difficult for me, or at least it has been extra difficult for me, because when I was working as a cook, the steady income was setting me up, like the way I was preparing myself in life, it was setting me up to basically move on for the next few steps, like to get my own car, to move out, or to like even like think about, marriage and stuff like that and how that may look. And so there was a lot of like big decisions and big moving pieces that were kind of like dependent on an income and the money that I was making. So to transition from that to this basically took all of those things and like flipped it on its head and like basically delayed it and pushed it back. So it's been very it has been difficult looking at it from like the financial aspect, and like in the timeline of my life that has been difficult, but also it's been very rewarding. Although I was / am super passionate about cooking and the culinary industry, I think what I'm doing here for the podcast is a different kind of passion and a different kind of like purpose that I feel is a part of my life. Yeah, I mean, we'll probably talk about it later because I'm pretty sure that's one of the questions that come up later. But for me, it's really, like this whole podcast is really like about my faith, and what I feel like God is calling me to and to do. But yeah, to answer your question, it's been a wide range of like really good and like tough and difficult. But yeah, I think another thing, sorry, just to like wrap it up, but I think another thing that is also difficult is the fact that there's no like set pathway in this. There's no like, oh, you're gonna work at, for example, comparing it to being a cook, right? Like there's no, I'm gonna work at this level of restaurant and then be like the top of this restaurant and then move on to the next restaurant and then learn this skill and then take that skill and move here and then use that to kind of like move up the ladder, and then you can see like, okay, that's the restaurant that I want to be at, so I need to do XYZ to hit there. There's no, it's not as clear with this, you know. Like obviously I can look at, oh, you know, there's the Real Ones podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, like I want to be like that, so how do I be like that? And but it's so open-ended. There's no, it's all based on me and like how I work, and so that's a big thing too, you know. Also, I know Irene talked about it on her episode, like getting imposter syndrome. It's like being somebody that creates content is difficult because I don't know, for me, and I hope this doesn't rub any people the wrong way, but like content creating and being labeled as a content creator for me is like a little yucky for me.
I mean,
like
that's just what it's become. Like before, like man, we used to praise YouTubers. Like I never looked at a YouTuber, like when we were in like what, middle school, high school, like I never looked at a YouTuber and was like, ew, like bro, we were watching like Niga Higa and stuff like that. I never was like, that's so lame, what are they doing? Like that's so yuck. Like it's just what it's become.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is the difficult part, is that I'm jumping into this at that time where like everyone's on social media. There's a bajillion million podcasts, there's a bunch of, everyone's making TikToks and stuff like that. So like it is difficult to kind of like make something that feels different than all of that stuff. And I know that that's everybody's goal. Like everybody that creates content is trying to make something new, trying to make something different. But yeah, that's another difficult thing. That's probably the single hardest thing, I think. Other than the finances, I think the single hardest thing for me is really telling people, like, especially people that know me, is like, yeah, I used to be a cook and I had like a good path going out for me and stuff like that. And like, I am not anymore. And it's like, well, what are you doing? He's like, oh, well, I have a podcast. It's like, it's like, although I am passionate about what I do and I like enjoy what I do, like it's, if I'm being completely honest, like sometimes it is embarrassing to say that and to like tell people that, because I just feel like I don't have the opportunity to really sit down with everybody that asks that question and explain to them what is really going on behind the scenes. Like all I can tell them on paper is like, yeah, I have a podcast, and it's like, oh, so you're not like being like, you're not a chef anymore. It's like, oh. And it's tough because I think at the same time of social media and content creating being looked at in a negative light, chefs and cooks and the culinary industry is also getting looked at a really highly with the positive lens nowadays. Like a lot of people are like, oh, you're a cook, you're a chef, you like they, like when I used to tell them that, a lot of people would get wide-eyed like, oh, that's so cool, like I need to do this. But then now it's like, oh, I have a podcast, and it's like, oh, that's cool, like, oh, I'll listen. But you know, so that's probably the most difficult thing, is having to tell people what I do and not really getting the chance to explain to them why it is the way that it is. But you know, there's probably a plan for this.
Even just on a smaller scale, like when you really dove into being a cook and like working at Ryla and stuff like that, like it was so different. Like I don't really think anyone from like church or your family was ever in that industry.
Yeah.
If it was, they're not around that much.
Yeah.
So even more so, everyone was like, wow, like Marcus is a cook, blah, blah, blah. Like, Marcus, can you cook this? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It was a super novelty thing.
Yeah.
And then again, really, it's just the fact that a lot of people will like to claim themselves as foodies. A lot of people like to say that they enjoy food. And I mean, like, food obviously is a necessity. So everybody eats food. So everybody can kind of relate to that in a certain way. But yeah, like, this is definitely more difficult.
Wow, that's a good question. That's a good question. Okay, so where would you like to see this podcast by this time next year?
By this time next year, which is basically almost the end of 2024.
Yeah.
By this time next year, I mean, a lot can happen in a year, but also a year is also not a lot of time at the same time. Do you know the day that your first episode aired? The day that my first episode aired with you, was May 30.
Wow. May?
Yeah, May 30.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for...
It's been like 4 months.
4 months.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I should do more episodes. 4 months and only 10 episodes is like kind of whack. I don't know. It's a lot though. Anyways.
It is a lot. So this time next year.
This time next year. So I've been doing this for 4 months. And I mean, I would say I made a lot of progress since the 4 months. Obviously, it's not like amazing or great or anything, but...
I mean, the very, very first episode, we had a single mic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah.
This time next year, I guess my number one goal is to just monetize. That's probably my number one goal. I would like to see that by the end of next year, at least like make like $10. I don't really care how much. Like, that is my goal, is just to see some income from this.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what I'm working towards. And I've been doing a lot of research and looking into it. Right now, although that is my number one goal, to answer that question for next year, my main goal right now is to just be consistent. It's just to build that consistency, get more episodes out, and just continue to get better at being an interviewer, being a conversator, and get better with the quality of the content. But again, to answer that question, I want to see the monies.
The monies.
Even if it's not a lot.
Cool. All right. Now we're getting into the deep questions.
So, I mean, some of the answers were pretty deep. I got pretty deep on the other question.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Do you have any regrets in life? If so, what is your biggest regret?
Do I have any regrets? And
if so, what is the biggest one?
What is my biggest regret? I think my answer would be no. Just because I don't see myself as the type of person to look at moments in my life and like regret.
Yeah.
Do I wish maybe I had done things differently in certain times of my life? 100%. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not a perfect person. I make mistakes, and hindsight is 20/20. So of course, you know, I could look back at many moments in my life and be like, oh, I wish I did this different. I wish I did that different. But and I feel like a lot of people would answer in the same way. But I wouldn't say that I regret anything, because I do really feel like every bad decision that I made was crucial to building and forming who I am. Yeah, I don't know. I can't really... There are big moments where I really was like, man, I really wish I did some different stuff. But I think to give you the satisfaction of the answer that I think, or like the type of answer that I feel like the people or whoever answered this question would want to know. I guess for me, again, this is not a regret by any means, but I think for me, one of the biggest sections in my life where I really wish I did stuff different is relationship wise, I feel like and it doesn't have anything to do with any of the other people that I have been in relationships with or a relationship with, but it really is about the fact that my walk with God could have been growing a lot deeper during that time. I know, and I want to stress that for other people that may not be in relationships and maybe seeking like a relationship super heavily, or just maybe young and I don't know. But for me, I wish that I had cherished my season of singleness more, to really like to really learn who I was, learn who I am, and also build relationships with other people aside from the person that I was involved with, and yeah, and I want to stress that like it's not a regret and it has nothing to do with the person, but it has everything to do with my growth,
like who you were.
Yeah, my growth as an individual.
Yeah.
I think it could have been greater, and my growth and my walk with God like could have been different, and yeah, if I had taken more time to be okay being by myself, because that's really what it is, I think, for myself and for a lot of people that, you know, you see other people in relationships and whatever, and for whatever reason you're like, oh, you want to rush into that, you want to get into that, but I think it's really important to focus on yourself, learn about yourself, figure out who you want to be, what you want to do, before you become responsible for another person. And I think that's the biggest thing, really. Is like I think what people don't understand is that, not that people don't understand it, but what I didn't understand at the time is that when I got into a relationship, the relationship is not to benefit, not that it's not to benefit me, but at the time I really thought like, oh, a relationship would benefit me. Like I would be happy being in a relationship, and being in a relationship would make me feel better. But really what I didn't take into account is when I get into a relationship,
it's less about you.
Yeah, you like you involve another person, like another person's feelings and emotions, and life is like to be like, I don't want to be so dramatic, but it's in your hands. Like you are now responsible for another person when you commit to a relationship, when you like, you know, agree to be exclusive, and when you really really like get deep with another person on that level of relational, like you become responsible for that other person. And I didn't realize that at the time, and now looking back at it, I definitely was not ready to be responsible for another person. Yeah, basically saying I was just being selfish at that time, engaging in a relationship because I was like, yeah, like, oh, it make me feel good, like, oh, it you know, blah blah blah, this and that. But yeah, like
you don't take into account like the actual sacrifice that goes into a relationship.
Yeah, I do have a regret. Yeah, now that I'm talking about it, my biggest regret is not being sensitive to the life of the other people I impacted. You know? Yeah, my biggest regret is being selfish in that stage of my life. Like, if I had one regret in my life, it would be that I regret the way my actions, my selfish actions, impacted my other people's lives that I didn't know it was going to impact.
Okay, next question is, who inspires you the most, and what's the most important lesson from them?
I don't know. Like I've had, there's different people in my life that have inspired me.
You can say like a few if you want.
I'll kind of ease into like the main answer to the question. But like one of the few people that inspired me, and I always tell this story when I give like my testimony, I think, about like my walk and my faith and how that grew. But I always lump Hannah, Kiana, and Auntie Rai in the same group of people that helped my faith develop, because I remember when I was young, their walks were inspiring to me, and I always looked at them like, oh, I want that. Like I want to have a relationship with God the way that they do. And again, without that, without them being who they were, and without them having the relationships and walk with God that they did, I wouldn't have that for myself today, right? But I mean, that's just more on the spiritual side. But I guess like developmentally as a person, like who inspires me the most, I would probably have to say my dad. Because this kind of like ties in a question that we asked earlier of like, what kind of traits am I most proud of? A lot of the stuff that I learned as a man, I learned from him. And those traits that I learned from him and apply to myself, I would say are things that I'm proud of, you know? Just like regular guy stuff, you know, being able to be handy around the house, how to like take care of women, and how to be a provider, and how, you know, just a lot of a long myriad of different things. But the most important lesson that I think I learned from my dad is, if you're gonna do something, do it to your best ability. And it really, for me, it really applies to the things that you know you have to, and you know that you will do anyways. And that applies to anything. For example, you know, washing the dishes, making your bed, you know, like whatever. It's the small things like that, all the way up to like, you know, working, providing, like all that stuff. Like if I know I'm going to do it and I have to do it, like what's the point for me of half-assing things and not giving it my 100%? You know, that's just shortchanging myself. You know, because then at that point, if I know I have to do it and I'm not giving it 100%, then I'm just wasting my own time, really. Because it has to be done anyways. So I might as well make it an opportunity to learn and grow. You know,
that's like when you that's like when you like cheat in school. Like my teacher always used to tell me, like, you can cheat on the test, but you're not cheating anyone but yourself. Like you're not doing everything you can to actually make sure that you're learning anything or gaining from it. You're just trying to, I guess, like in a sense, like satisfy others, or like just get it done just to get it done. But you're just cheating yourself. You're not cheating anyone but yourself.
I mean, exactly like that. Like all of the outcomes and consequences for making shortcuts and not doing things the way that they're supposed to be done, all of those outcomes are negative. The only thing that is positive that might come out of it is time. You save yourself time. You know, you save yourself energy. You might not be as exhausted than giving your 100%. But the pros of the shortcuts are way, way, way more insignificant than the pros of giving your 100%. If I give my 100% in the things that I do, not only, like, yes, I may, you know, spend a little bit more time, spend a little bit more energy on them, but I learn from that. I learn how to do the thing that I'm doing and how to be better at it. And I prove to myself that I'm somebody who gives my 100%. I prove to myself that I'm somebody who works hard. And I think that mental clarity and that mental like confidence is really important in the long run. You know, because then when you do face bigger challenges, like for example, like this podcast, where it is basically all up to my own hard work. Like I can say that I can look back in my past and be like, no, I am the type of person who follows through. I am the type of person who can work hard and accomplish these things. But if I live my whole life like doing shortcuts, cheating on tests and homework and stuff like that, and not learning and growing from the things that I have to do anyways, then when it gets to these bigger things in life, I've already built a rapport with myself that I'm going to take the easy way out. Like, I'm not going to see it through. Like, I'm going to be the type of, like, I have been the type of person to not put in that extra effort. So that lesson is probably one of the the biggest things that I've learned from my dad is like, hey, if you're gonna do something, you better give your 100%, because you're wasting your own time. You're shortchanging yourself. There's like nothing good comes out of it, you know. So give your 100% in everything that you do, because, you know, you're gonna do it anyways.
Yeah.
And not only for myself, but also for the people around me. Like, that benefits the people around me when I give my 100%, because the quality of whatever I'm doing is shown to other people, you know. Mm-hmm. And again, like we're talking about my dad, so I'm using him as an example. Like, that, since that's the way that he lives his life, like, and that's what he does, and that's what he's shown me, and like, I've learned from him, and I've seen what it's like to have excellent work versus subpar work. Like, you know, just for an example, like when we do handiwork around the house and stuff like that, like sometimes like, oh, I don't want to do this, like I'll just make a shortcut, it'll just be like this, like it doesn't really need to be 100%, and then I'll do it that way, like the half-ass way, like the not hard-working way, and like it'll probably work for a while or whatever, but then my dad will do something and he'll, you know, do it to the best of his ability. He'll like make sure that it's done the best way, get 100%, and I can see the difference in quality from what his is versus what mine is. And not only like, and I think one of the big things too is that when you do something 100% and then you accomplish something that you know you gave your all, and it's the best that you can give, it's something that you can be proud of. Yeah. Really, it's something that you can be proud of, and it's something that you want to like show others and stuff like that. And I think that's another big thing too, is to be able to be proud of what you can accomplish and be proud of your work is huge. So that is my answer to that question. Yeah.
Well, I guess that kind of answers the next question too, but if there's more, basically the question is, if there's one saying you go by in this life, what is it and why?
It is actually different.
Oh, it is?
It is actually different. Like, although that is one of them, although giving my 100% is one of the things that I try to live by. Again, like I said, I'm not perfect. I don't always give my 100%, although I should. But what is one of the sayings that
you go by
in this life? One of the sayings, and for me, this saying comes with the privilege of being a Christian. And for some people it might be a cop-out, but yeah, it answers the question. I think for me, one of the sayings is really kind of this tattoo, not mise en place itself, but the idea of like God is in control, like he's taking care of me and he's taking care of things. It's, for me, my life has never really been clear cut. My life has never really been like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, this is what I'm gonna be. Like, I know, you know, my life has been fairly open-ended for as long as I can remember. And because it's been so open-ended, and because I grew up with that personality, like I took pride when I was younger. I took pride in being like, I don't plan things, like I roll with the punches, you know, like I took pride in like, oh, I just, you know, that my mind's kind of like all over the place. But one answer to this question that is like not Christianese is really like, it is what it is. Like that's how I used to live, really, like, and I still live that way, but it's more Christ-centered now. Like before it was really like, it is what it is. Bad things happen, it is what it is. Good things happen, it is what it is. Like, cool, like, you know, that was really my motto growing up, and really it was kind of like a cushion for me to feel okay with like not having a direction in life. It's like, you know, like I always said, like, you know, if God wants it to be that way, then it'll be that way, like, you know. And I still do have that mentality, but again, it's less careless. It's less careless, because that's what it was before. Now it's more like, you know, purpose driven. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do stuff, but it's okay if it doesn't go the way that I plan it to, because God is in control and he's taking care of things. And like I said, it's the meaning of this tattoo of everything is in its place. Everything is where it needs to be. You are where you need to be, you know, and you're going where you need to be going. And even if, you know, you look back at your life and you're like, man, I wish things were different. Again, like, that's with the no regrets thing. Like, it built who you are today. Like, and who you are today and what's going on in your life today is going to build who you are, you know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know? So that is one of the biggest things for me is just to not be so like closed, tight-fisted on the things that I want in my life, you know, be able to let go, be able to be okay with the change that is inevitable to happen in life. And I think that is something that guides my life a lot, because I have lived such an open-ended life. I've never really like had like, oh, this needs to be done at this time, because if it's not, then this next step is gonna get messed up, and this, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, I guess, wow, that kind of segues into the next question too. What is God calling you to do in the coming year?
What is God calling me to do? That has been probably one of my biggest prayers, because, again, kind of like touching on other questions we asked in the episode, like, although I am really passionate about this podcast, and although this is one of the things that I really feel like God is calling me to do, as of right now, it can't be the only thing that God is calling me to do, because the reality is I got stuff to pay for, and, you know, you can't be 24 and have like Z income for like a long period of time. So that's really my biggest question is like, what else, you know? Like, I know that this is one of them, but what else, you know, like, what else are you calling me to do? I don't know. To be honest, I don't think I can answer that question, because I don't know if I have the answer to that yet, other than this, you know? And I think, I guess if I did have to answer it, it wouldn't be like a thing that God is calling me to, but more so like a mental state or like a spiritual state that God is calling me in, which is to just have faith.
Yeah.
Like, and that is what this is. This podcast is really like God's call to me to be like, as a test, like, are you faithful? Like, how faithful? Yeah. Like, how much do you trust me? How faithful are you willing to be towards me? I always tell people this when we get into like this deep, like, where did this podcast come from and why? Like, I always tell people the analogy of Abraham and Isaac and that story. For those of you guys that don't know it, Abraham was a man who followed God, a man who was faithful. And again, I don't really know the entire story. I think Isaac was his only son.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, I think, technically Isaac was his only son. And basically, God, out of testing Abraham in his faithfulness to God, called Abraham to sacrifice his son the way that they would a lamb. So,
well, the thing with Isaac too is, like, he had Ishmael.
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I need to know this story more, but
because Abraham had a son with the slave Hagar.
Yeah,
that's Ishmael, I believe.
Yeah.
But then Abraham, or like God told Abraham, like, no, your wife Sarah will be pregnant, and he's like, no, like, she can't give birth, she hasn't been able to, blah, blah, blah.
So he was like the miracle child.
Yeah, so he's like the miracle child. So not only is he, because sometimes in the Bible they don't really refer to Ishmael, because it was a son out of wedlock. It was a son out of what God told Abraham to do. So technically Abraham did have two sons.
Yeah.
Ishmael was the son that, it was almost like, it's like a metaphor for like when we're not patient and we kind of just want to do it on our own. Like, that's what Abraham did. He did it on his own. Like, he went and like had a son with like his slave, just to have a son, just to like pass pass it down. But then God told him, like, no, I will make Sarah pregnant. I will give Sarah the opportunity to carry a child. And that's what happened, even though, like, they all had their doubts because I think she was, like, old or she was just, like, infertile, something like that. So Isaac, anyways, to wrap it all up, Isaac was, like, a big deal. That's why putting Isaac on the altar as a sacrifice was also a bigger deal because Abraham was probably like, what, like you gave this to me. You gave this to me. This is what you said, like, this is what you wanted for me, and now you're asking me to kill him. Like, you're telling me to, like... But anyways, so with your story too, it's like he gave that to you of, like, your cooking career and, like, calling you into that passion of yours. But then he... Is that what you're talking about? Like, what's your Isaac? Your cooking career or your podcast?
I mean, I kind of got lost in it because, but I was saying that I always tell this story. Oh, not that there is an Isaac. Like, the story of Abraham and Isaac is not that God is asking me to sacrifice something. It's that God is asking me to do something that sounds crazy. Yeah. Is really it, you know? Because, again, like, just to tell your story, to, like, get my head into it, is that, like, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. And the story is that Abraham, although, you know, he definitely didn't want to do it, he did it. He followed through with it. He literally brought his son all the way up to the mountain to gather all the stuff, and literally, like, was about to kill him, had the knife and everything, and at the last moment God was like, okay, you don't have to do it. It was just a test of faith. Yeah. And that's why I relate it to this and this season of faith that God is calling me to, because for me, this is really like God saying, like, okay, well, how much do you trust me? Like, although it's crazy, although you think it could never happen, like, how much are you willing to give to me, you know? Like, and I really feel like that's what God is calling me to do with this. And the thing is that I don't know, and I'm not confident in what the end goal is for this. I'm not confident in, like, if this is gonna be the end goal, if like God really put me on this earth to be a podcaster, and this is gonna be my source of income, and I'm gonna be a full-time podcaster and not have anything else. Like, I don't know if that's it, or if God is telling me to do this in the same way the story of Abraham and Isaac is just to test me, and then he's like, you know, you don't really have to do it. Like, I just wanted to see how far you would go and how much you love me and how much you trust me, and then it might be something else. But with the story of Abraham and Isaac, is Abraham didn't, like, wrestle with God too much. Like, he didn't fight God too much. It wasn't like, wait, God, like, I know you're asking me to do this, but you know, he's my son. Like, I don't want to do this. There wasn't, like, a back and forth. Like, Abraham didn't need
a reason.
Abraham didn't need God to tell him the end goal. Yeah. Like, Abraham wasn't like, oh, God, you know, what's going to happen? Like, he didn't ask God to say, like, oh, you know, I just want you to, like, I want you to try it, and then at the end, you know, you don't really have to, you know? Yeah. Abraham really believed that he was going to kill his son. Like, he really, really, really believed it in his heart. Yeah. And the reason why he was going to go through with it is because of the sole reason that God asked him to. And that is the season of life that I feel like I'm in. Although it sounds crazy, and again, like I said, although sometimes it's embarrassing, and although sometimes it's difficult to do it and follow through with this, I'm doing this because I really believe that God is asking me to do it, and God is telling me to do it. And I want to be the kind of Christian, and I want to be the kind of guy that doesn't need all the answers. All I need is God's guidance, and all I need is God's direction. Like, I want him to say, go, and I go. Yeah. You know, and that's what this is for me. Like, God said do it, so I'm gonna do it. Like, I don't know. Like it's tough. It's really, really tough, honestly. Like, it's really tough for you and for my loved ones, my family, to have to explain and have to tell them, like, I don't know what this is. You know? I don't know. And it is, and it would be easier if I didn't already have something going for me. So back to the story of Abraham and Isaac, like, you know, what you were saying is like, I had a career already set out for me, something I was really passionate in doing, something I was good at, something that I could make a career out of, you know, and I had that going for me, and that would be my Isaac, of God saying like, I gave it to you, you were good, I blessed you in it, and I want you to give it all up for me.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have to like explain all of that, but not be able to say what comes after.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's hard to tell people, I don't know what's coming out of this. Like, I don't know how long I'm gonna do this for. I don't know if I'm gonna make any money out of this. I don't know. But again, that's what God is calling me to do in the season. Mm-hmm. He's not asking me to have all the answers. He's not giving me all the answers, because if I had all the answers, then it's not faith.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, that doesn't have me having all the answers, doesn't stretch me, it doesn't grow me, it doesn't make me to be the person that God needs me to be, you know? So yeah, like, that's just really the season that I'm in. And again, to answer the question, I don't know what God is calling me in this next year, in this next season. All I know is that there's this.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last and final question, and probably the question that I was like most excited to get into, honestly. What makes you truly believe in God?
Yeah, so I just went on like a whole rant, whole spiel of like God's leading and stuff like that. I think that's a really, really good question. I actually talked about this a little bit in my one-on-one with Nathan. What really makes me believe in God? I think one of the biggest things is just, man, I don't even know where to go, because there's just so many different things. But I'm pretty sure once I get the ball rolling, I'll hit a few things. But one of the biggest things really is looking back at my life and just seeing all the different times that God has came through, and all the different times that he's came through, and he has done something for me that I know I couldn't have done for myself. I've said it before a few times today that, you know, looking back, I was a knucklehead. I was a troublemaker. I bet you if you ask anybody when I was younger about me, they would have worried about my future. Like, they would have been like, I don't know where this kid is going. Like, yo, this kid needs like extra attention, extra help and stuff. And then on top of that, again, with me not really having any direction in my life, it, for me, like, on paper, when I hear that, it just sounds like a recipe for failure. It sounds like a recipe for, you know, I don't know. Disaster, I guess. but time and time again, I've seen God pull through for me. Like, damn.
What?
You know, I always thought someone was gonna like tear up or like cry.
Oh my God, you're getting emotional?
About like their story. I did not think it was gonna be me. Yeah.
Aww. You're gonna make me cry.
Anyways. Yeah. Time and time again, like, I've seen God do things and pull through, like, in ways that, like, you could only explain as, like, supernatural.
Yeah.
Like, I never had a college that I was like, oh yeah, I really want to go to. But I ended up at APU. And, like, that was a big period in my life. Obviously, I met, like, lifelong friends. And then, like, up until that point, like, in high school, like, I didn't really have... Dude. Anyways, yeah, I didn't really have, like, a lot of friends in high school, and then I went to college, and then I met, like, lifelong, like, friends that I would consider, like, family. like right under like church family, which I consider like even though they're like, obviously I have blood family in the church, but like I have friends and family in this church that like I could really consider like deep family, right? And then APU friends that are like right under there. And God gave me that, you know? And then like I didn't know.
Sorry. I just, once I start crying, it's not gonna stop, so I'm really trying to suppress it. Why am I crying?
Dude. But anyways. And then like obviously I met you, and that was like life changing. I wasn't even like I didn't expect that at the time, obviously. And then like coming out of college, like I didn't know what I was gonna do like as a career, right? Like I went to college and for biology in the beginning because again I really liked animals. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a zoologist. And then I dropped out of that major first semester in college. I didn't even make it a year. I was like, yeah, nope, not doing that. Yeah. And then I didn't know what to join, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna just do business, even though I knew I wasn't gonna do anything in business, and I wasn't gonna like I didn't care to be in business. I wasn't gonna I didn't really pay attention. So it was literally just to have a major. And to say that I was a business major, I mean, a lot of people was like, oh yeah, that looked good on your resume, blah, blah, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't know what I was going to do out of college. And then, like, while I was in college, because I was dorming and, like, living away from my family, like, I was forced to cook for myself. And then I grew a real passion for cooking. To the point where I was like, okay, I could see myself making a career out of this. Coming out of college, like, I didn't go to culinary school, and at one point I was looking into it, but again, like, God pulled through, and he gave me a job at, like, a new restaurant job at a hotel, or, like, through this company called Greenleaf that was, like, a hookup from my auntie, and I didn't have any experience at all. And I got hired, and I was 21 at the time because I had just graduated college, I think. 21, 22 at the time, maybe. Mm-hmm. And I worked at this restaurant called Greenleaf, and I started in Venice, and I was there for like a few months, and I got really good really quickly, and a lot of the cooks that I worked with like could tell that I was pretty good. But it was funny because I was 21, 22 at the time, and then all of my coworkers were like 30, 40-year-old grown Hispanic men, you know? Like, I did not belong in that kitchen for sure at all. But I worked and I did good, and then I only worked there at that company Greenleaf for what, like
a few months.
Few months only, like less than 6 months.
Yeah, for sure.
And then from there I had a hookup through one of my family members who worked with Ray at who was opening a new restaurant, Ryla, and he's like, hey, Ray's a really good chef, you should work under him. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna shoot my shot. Like, I only worked at a restaurant for 6 months, and it's not even a nice restaurant. I'll apply. I had no qualifications to get the job that I did, like no experience. Like, I did not deserve to get that job, but I did. I got hired, and I worked at Ryla, and God blessed me with the skills and the work ethic to be able to succeed and do really well in that kitchen, which again, like, I was cooking with people that I've been cooking for years and years, and I would say that I was working at a level that was comparable, you know, only under a year. So, I mean, those are just a few examples of like the many, many times in my life that I've really seen God do things that I didn't even ask for, that I didn't even see for myself, that like I couldn't have ever saw be done, right? So, and then not only in my life, but just to see that happen for other people around me, you know, that is probably the biggest thing for me to have, like, proof that God is real, you know? Like, the more and more you open yourself up to God, and the more and more, like, you seek him and try to like see him and experience him, the more and more God will give you proof of like, I'm real. Like, he'll show up for you in ways that you could never ever know or see, or even show up for yourself. And sometimes like, it's crazy. And again, like, the longer I am a Christian and the more that I see God, like, the more that I see and that there is proof that he is real. Like, if you go back and watch a few of the episodes of my podcast, like, most of them at the end of their episode talk about their faith and talk about how God was able to change their life. Because, and although yes, there is some kind of bias because a lot of the people that I'm talking to come from church, mm-hmm. Still, even then, you look at their stories, and there are even some people who didn't come from a church background, but at the end of it, it's like they were changed and they were saved by a force that they could not explain. Like, mm-hmm. there's no like you know, it's a force that cannot be attributed to themselves, mm-hmm. because sometimes there's just some like magical, mystical, miracle things that happen. And for me, the only explanation for those things is God. Like, mm-hmm. that is why I believe in God, because for me in my life, again, for it being so open-ended, and for me having, like, again, I'm not trying to say like I had some crazy rough past life and I was like, you know, like homeless or a druggie or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, like, I definitely am blessed to have the life that I did and was privileged to live the life that I lived growing up. But there are still things that happen in my life that have been changed and fixed by God that, again, like, I can't say is anything else. Mm-hmm. Because of that mentality that I had growing up of like, it is what it is. I don't really know where I'm going. I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I can never say that I was the one that landed myself that job at Ryla. I can never say I was the one that got into APU, because I didn't care about school in high school. Like, was I a decent student? Yeah. Did I get like decent grades? Yeah. But like I said it in another podcast, my grades that I got in high school were worse than both my sister's grades. Yeah. Like, I wasn't like a great student, but like I got into a good school. And then like APU is not cheap. It's a private school. It's really expensive, but like, again, I know God wanted me there because time after time he would provide for me and my family. Yeah. For me to be able to stay in that school. Yeah. So, I mean, I could sit here all day long and talk about how God, you know, shows up. But I think that's just my testimony, and I really, really, really like encourage those of you that are wondering about spirituality or God or Christianity to just ask and just like test God. I know it says in the Bible there are points where it says don't, you know, test God, but there are certain types of testings, such as, God, are you real? Yeah. That God tells you, like, try me, like, seek me, try me, ask for me, and I'll show you, like, I'll show up, you know? Not saying that it'll be like, God, if you're real, move the cup kind of thing, but, like, it'll be in bigger ways than that, trust me. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, for me, it's... And the reason why I got so emotional is because I'm at that point in my life again with this, where it's like, whatever comes from this, I can never ever say that it was from my ability. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know. Like, obviously, like, I am working towards it and I'm working for it, right? But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just in the season of faith. So whatever comes from this, man, that's really all him. Even like the mini victories that we have on each episode, of like, again, people coming on here time and time again saying like, hey, my life was this, I went through this, and God was the one who helped me out of it, and I found spirituality through it, and a force that is greater than me. Like, just those stories already, like, is enough good that came out of this for, you know, for me to be like, all right, like, God did what he needed to do. So, I don't know, it's kind of rambling at the end, but yeah, a little bit of my testimony, and yeah.
Dang.
That,
deep. You
that's
know
what
what's
I'm
crazy
saying.
too is we almost didn't put this at the end. That would have been like a middle question.
Yeah, that would have been weird if that was a middle question.
So
but
weird as a middle
yeah,
question.
I know, it's crazy. I said like I always felt that someone was gonna tell their story and tear up. I really, really did not think it was gonna be me on this episode.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's
all
the questions I had.
That's it. That's all the questions that was asked. So, anyways, thank you guys for all the questions you guys sent in. I don't know, I'm kind of recovering. But thank you guys for all the questions you guys sent in. I hope you guys were able to kind of get a look into me, the person who comes on here every week and asks these questions, and getting a little bit of an insight of why I do what I do and why I ask the questions and have these guests on, and the purpose of this podcast. And I hope that from this there'll be more of an engagement and more of a conversation between me and you guys who watch the show, because again, this would be nothing without you guys who watch it, and be nothing without those of you who come on the show and tell your stories. So that's what I really hope comes out of this, that there is more conversation, not only between us, but really like the whole purpose of this podcast, to really like see that you might not know as much about the people that you interact with, and to encourage you to seek those conversations with those people that are around you. So anyways, thank you so much. Again, we don't really do outros, but this is a different episode. But thank you so much again for watching. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say about this episode and other episodes and stuff in the future. So thank you again so much, and I'll catch you on future episodes.